Hi YouTubers! Here we have a position that is clearly totally won for black. Black just played rook a2 to a1, and well, white doesn't seem to have any hopes. It's an amateur blitz game and white only has something more than 10 seconds on the clock, while black has over 2 minutes. But as you can see, black has a small material advantage. White decides to play f3, giving room for black to make a blunder, and here black totally blunders by playing queen takes f3, and despite the material advantage and very little time for white, this game is now drawn. White plays queen takes g6, check. Well, black can do a few things, placing his king to h8, but that won't help, so he takes, and after which rook to g7 check. Well, two moves, taking the rook or king h8, and king h8 will lead to repetitive checks and repetition of the same position. That's a draw. Black takes, and as you can see, this is a stalemate. White manages to escape here. I've got more sophisticated examples next. Well, to be honest, it always puts a smile on me to see a stalemate like this, with the white side with just one single pawn escaping his fate of dying. This position derives from the game Williams versus Harrwitz, and played in 1846. As you can see, black has a huge material advantage, but white comes to be very annoying due to the stalemate rule. Let's have a look. Black plays rook to a8, and the threat here is moving the knight to c2, checking, moving the king out of a1, and thus promoting the pawn. Rook to c1 prevents this, king to e3, rook to c4, black plays rook to a4 to cover the knight. White plays rook to c1, and now king to d2, and white simply plays his rook back to c4. Now black cannot play the intended knight to c2 check, because then white simply takes the knight, and now after recapture white is stalemated. So black plays king to d3, rook to c3 check, once again using stalemate, because if the king would choose to take, then once again white is stalemated. So king to d4, rook to c1, rook to a3 with idea of rook to c3, rook d1 check, and of course black cannot play rook to d3, because after rook takes d3 check, it's over. Most of you will see that after black takes with the knight, the king simply eats the pawn and is drawn. So the king takes d3, but now white can shuffle his king between a1 and b2 for the rest of the game. If the knight ever moves from b4, it would give up the pawn on a2. So the only possible way is to relieve the black steed of the defensive duties and give the defensive duties to the black king. However, as soon as the black king makes contact with the pawn in whatever way, once again white is stalemated. So that's no option. So black here played king to c5, rook to c1 check, king to b5, rook to c7, knight to d5, rook to c2, knight to c3, rook to b2 check, king to c4, and now the beautiful rook to b3. As you can see, it threatens the undefended rook on a3, and well, black cannot take it. If black takes the rook, let's say with his own rook, then it's stalemate. If the king takes rook, also it's a stalemate. If black chooses to defend the rook with the knight, then we simply take the rook, and after the recapture, once again, it's draw. So the rook goes back to a8. Now we take the knight, and after the recapture, once again, it's stalemate. We now go to a more recent. The position you see here comes from the World Championship match between Korchnoi versus Karpov. It's been a draw for the position is a draw for quite a while now. The bishop, white bishop, cannot influence the promoting square on a8. As soon as the white king goes to eat the pawn on a4, then the black king will run to a8, and there's no way for white or black to draw. So why didn't they agree to draw? Well, Korchnoi and Karpov were not on speaking terms, so neither of them wanted to offer a draw, because then they had to speak against each other. So the practical solution for this was that Korchnoi played the bishop to g7, and thus playing an intended stalemate. Yeah, Korchnoi said that it gave him great pleasure to stalemate Karpov. This is not a very famous stalemate. It comes from Anand versus Kramnik for World Championship in 2007. Here black has to take the pawn on f5 and thus stalemating white. If any other move that black would play, let's say king to f4, would lose the game, because white simply plays king to g6, and well, if black maintains contact with the pawn on f5, simply plays this move, and now the pawn on a5 will promote, and if black would stay in touch with that pawn, then very simple, the pawn on f5 would promote. So that's it for today. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you again. Bye bye.